Touhou Danmaku Kagura is a game that died. Touhou and mobile gaming has had a strange relationship. Games met with controversy, died far too soon, or not up to spec with the modern era. But out of these wacky few mobile games, they still serve a purpose: to have fun. Touhou is a series where you can enjoy it in any genre, but one that seems to synergize well with the project are rhythm games. If you ever played DDR or Osu, you have likely heard the occasional you and Owen or seen a crossover with the characters here and there. Rhythm games are popular among the otaku crowd, especially on mobile devices, so it was not a big surprise that a Touhou rhythm game eventually released. But if you could not tell, the game is dead now. So how did we get to a point where a game beloved by so many just had to die out? Well, I think I might have the answer. Before we begin, a quick history lesson. Mobile games were always a popular idea, the Game Boy and early mobile phones. However, with the invention of the iPhone and the App Store, mobile games exploded in popularity. Now the entire world loves the game on their magic rectangles. However, Touhou was popular enough to get some games on mobile, but their quality was, yikes. However, Touhou Cannonball came along and showed that a Touhou mobile game can succeed, at least for a little while. That's where we come to 2021, where a fancy new game was set to release by developers Aqua Style, known for being in the doujin space since the dawn of the millennium, making albums and roguelike Touhou games. Doujin games do have a problem though. They do not sell well. Their reach is small and their sales even smaller, so it was only reasonable for Aqua Style to want just a little bit more. The mobile game market is a potential goldmine for ads, in-app purchases, and recently, gacha systems. But keep a pen and nose for now, since they eventually lead to something bad. But before you can actually get money, you must first make a game that people actually want to play. The rhythm game genre is what Danmaku Kagura was aiming for. There are various ways of accomplishing this, like clicking circles, timing taps for piano tiles, or even dragging along the lines. This game has exactly what I mentioned. However, it has gameplay similar to Bang Dream, but only with Touhou songs. You are in a Danmaku battle fighting whatever enemy, so tapping to the beat is the only way to survive. It's a simple game really, though something that doesn't interest me much. In order to spice things up though, what a player must do is collect new characters. Of course, you can collect the classic Reimu Hakurei, but also characters we don't see too often, like Aunn Komano and Nazarin. Who? But of course, this is a rhythm game, so what the hell do you actually do with these characters? Well, they give you special goodies of course, like cosmetics? They are animated using Live 2D, the same system of what Touhou Cannonball used. They also had unique art, chibi versions, and their own voice actresses. But aside from that, I couldn't find anything gameplay wise. So why not mention the story then? Thanks to Gensokyo being utterly destroyed, strange soap bubbles called Yume Mitama appear, and the incidents of the past reoccur. So now it's the job of you and the girls to help rebuild Gensokyo, performing rituals called Danmaku Kagura. It's a simple story, yeah, but it gets the job done. Most Touhou fans don't care about the story anyway. Most enjoy the lovable characters and the bopping music. In this game, you can hear songs from the famous doujin circles: Iosis, A1, Silver Forest, Tokyo Active Needs, Uni Akiyama, who composed the songs for the fighting games, Team Shanghai Alice themselves, and even Soundholic. I freaking love those guys. And according to the Touhou Wiki, more to come. That statement will not age well. The game was well received, all things considered. A brand new mobile game for the nerds who love piano tiles. Only one problem. People really hate gacha systems. Danmaku Kagura was also affected by the gacha curse, but surprisingly not in the way you expect. Compared to other gacha games, you can apparently play it without spending the initial currency on anime girls. That's cool. But the fact that the system is still in the game rubs people the wrong way and drives them away from the game. You may guess that this was the sole reason that Danmaku Kagura shut down, and you would be partially right. Gacha games do have the tendency to shut down only like a year or two after their initial release, but there were many problems with Danmaku Kagura that pushed people away. For starters, it's a rhythm game where you compete for the high score. That's kinda it. When you achieve the highest rank, what else is there to do in the stage? Nothing. Replayability is something that determines if a game lives on or dies. For example, why is Mario Kart 64 still speedran 25 years on? The replayability of battle mode, the competition, the time trial, and the many shortcuts discovered keep the game alive. Again, what does Danmaku Kagura have? I don't know, maybe like 3 people getting high score world records? I don't know. This is probably a weak point for me, but again, replayability determines if a game lives or dies. The second point is the niche that this game sets to achieve. Danmaku Kagura tries to rake in fans of rhythm games who exclusively want to play stages of Touhou songs in a Touhou themed game. There is a problem with my previous sentence though. It sounds a little bit too specific. Finding a niche for anything like YouTube, art, gaming, it's a good way to find success and popularity. However, it's like alcohol. Too much of a niche will be bad for you. Too much of alcohol will cause your kidney to cry. It's also worth noting that Danmaku Kagura doesn't really set itself apart from competitors. I don't play rhythm games, but if I had to choose between an established game with years of history and many players, or a small niche game that only has Touhou themed content, I would honestly choose the Touhou option, but I can make a guess that many would rather prefer the more popular option. It's very hard to compete in an oversaturated market, so perhaps some cheesy, stupid new gimmick could help in that regard. Or if there was, it was likely too minor for people to notice. And again, I am likely wrong on this though, so I want to hear your opinions. The third point follows upon the budget. The marketing that DeNA used for the game was enormous. They apparently placed ads in Shinjuku, Japan. Heck, I'm sure that there were some ads played on Japanese YouTube, and of course word of mouth for the game's launch on the Touhou subreddit helped the game since 5 million players pre-registered. But there is one problem with that. When you place your eggs in one basket, and when they all spill, you get none left. What I'm saying is, DeNA spent a little too much on the marketing instead of, you know, actually doing something for the game. Like, I don't know, maybe an international release or something. The reason why I think Lost Word is still able to succeed 2 years on is because of an international audience. Touhou Cannonball also never got released outside Japan, and we all know what happened to it. Now, we should know that making an international translation of anything is not cheap, but it expands your reach and should be worth it in the end, which leads me to my fourth point. When the announcement of the shutdown happened, many were in a maze and just wondered why. To the English world, it remains mostly unknown, but to the Japanese-speaking lands, a clear answer was given. In an announcement video presented by a freaky-looking Yukari Reimu, who so happens to be the mascot of the game, a TLDR of the broadcast stated that the sales made in the game were unremarkable, so the project had to be shut down. There were promotions, updates, and events that were supposed to help, but they failed at increasing player count. It's worth noting that this game had DeNA as publisher, who are infamous in the gacha game community for publishing Pokemon Masters and other Nintendo mobile game masterpieces. The games are pretty divisive in the community, known for being heavily focused on monetization and not much else. I heard that Pokemon Masters has improved a bit, but it's still a de facto mess according to my research. Danmaku Kagura was spared the gacha curse, but not from DeNA's wrath. Most people know now that DeNA wanted this game to succeed financially, but the developers at Aquastyle can only do so much to keep the game from being a pay-to-win disaster. But in failing to appeal to Poppy DeNA, the game cannot get the funding to reach profit goals, thus dying. And it makes sense that you would feel some sympathy for Aquastyle. They were played by DeNA. Though the profit goals were not the entire reason that the game died, paying for royalties for the music and voice actors, the artists and programmers was most definitely not cheap. Plus, releasing in a saturated market did not help things at all. So in the end, it begs the question, did Danmaku Kagura deserve to die? Maybe yes, possibly not. The people of Touhou Twitter, oh of course they're obviously glad to see the game die, but to the players and passionate developers who put hours into the work just to see it shut down due to things out of their control, it must have been heartbreaking. I think the developers were trying their best to appeal to the player, but in the end, they just failed to please Poppy DeNA. I think Danmaku Kagura could have survived much longer if it were for an international release. You can only do so much with a niche audience in Japan, but the lack of popularity killed it. But to those few brothers and sisters that played the game, they enjoyed it. It's what a video game is supposed to be after all. My subscribers do agree too. They loved it and some played it since launch. They loved the cool crossovers, the music, despite being a pain in the ass to download. I think it is still possible that a game like this can succeed and return to the mainstream thanks to the leeway of Touhou's IP. The question is though, can it be done? Only the Touhou community can decide that for themselves. So, thanks for watching, my brothers.